Shana Tova, friends. Shana Tova, my amazing friends. I am so thrilled and honored to be able to pray with you this morning. I want to encourage you to take just a few moments to peruse some of the study texts on pages 104 through 107. I encourage you to pick one. Allow the word to wash over you as you let go of whatever it is that you were concerned about, some of those stressors, some of those things that have caused you anxiety. Let them lie at the door so that in this room, in this space, we have no cell phones going off. We have a time to really contemplate and be present with one another. Again, please, I encourage you to pick only one, but if you must, two, to really allow us to enter this space with a correct or open heart and the best kavanah, our best intentions. We're going to continue on page 110 with the singing of Ma Tovu as we welcome in the morning and are grateful for all of the amazing things around us. We continue on page 123, page 123 at the top, together. To awake from sleep each morning recalls your mystifying promise that death is not the end, but when this world awakens to the messianic dawn, souls and bodies will somehow join together once again in one grand reunion of the human race. When I awoke this morning, it was as though that mystery was rehearsed. For as I gradually emerged from sleep, my soul became aware of my body once again in a small but wondrous reunion of my own humanity. We continue on page 129. Blessed are the works of your hands, O Holy One. Blessed are the hands that have touched life. Blessed are the hands that have nurtured a child. Blessed are the hands that have embraced with love and friendship. Blessed are hands that have planted new seeds. Blessed are hands that have harvested ripe fields. Blessed are hands that have cleaned, washed, mopped, and scrubbed. Blessed are hands that have held pain. Blessed are hands that have become naughty with age. Blessed are hands that are wrinkled and scarred from doing justice. Blessed are hands that hold the promise of the future. Blessed are the works of your hands, O Holy One. Yehi ratzon milfanecha Adonai Eloheinu v'Elohei Avotenu v'Imotenu. Together, may it be your will, Adonai our God and God of our ancestors, that we discipline ourselves in Torah and devote ourselves to mitzvot. Help us to keep far from sin, to master temptation, and to avoid falling under its spell. May our darker passions not rule us, nor evil companions lead us astray. Rather, strengthen in us the voice of conscience. Prompt us to deeds of goodness, and bend our every impulse to your service. Today and every day, let us be gracious, loving, and compassionate in your eyes, and in the eyes of all humanity. Baruch atah Adonai, gamel chasadim tovim la'amo Yisrael. Blessed are you, Adonai, whose love for the Jewish people revealed in acts of goodness. We continue on page 131, first at the very bottom, and then the choir will lead us in a beautiful rendition of Psalm 121 and Psalm 27. God is my light, Adonai Ori. Traditionally, this psalm is read every day of the month preceding Rosh Hashanah throughout the high holiday season. According to Rabbi Samson Raphael Hirsch, the psalmist does not actually wish to spend his entire life in the temple. Even the priests were not constantly in the house of God. Rather, the psalmist expresses a yearning to carry the temple within him, a sense of security, inner peace that accompanies him wherever he goes. Reading this psalm during the days of awe, we can evoke our own desire for the serenity of strong faith in tumultuous times. We continue on page 138. Page 138. Holy One, infinite your power, radiant your glory, unbounded your might, awe-inspiring your works. Hamelech Yoshev al Kisei Ram Benisa, majestic God, today enthroned beyond time and space. Eternally present, your name is hallowed on high. And the psalmist sang, rejoicing in Adonai, you are righteous. Let the upright adorn you with praise. We continue on page 140. By the mouths of the upright you are raised up. In the words of the righteous you are blessed. On the tongues of the pious you are sanctified. In the midst of the holy you are praised. Your people by thousands sing to glorify your name in all generations. We give voice to your sovereignty. Yishtabach Shimcha Le'ad Malkeinu, our sovereign God, source of holiness and greatness. May your name be praised forever in this world and beyond. Eternal One, God of our mothers and our fathers, your strength, sanctity, glory, and dominion are deserving of song, praise, poetry, hymn, sacred trance, and blessing of thankfulness for all time and eternity. Baruch atah Adonai, el melech gadol betishbachot, el hahodaot Adonai niflaot, hobacher b'shimrei zimra melech elchai ha'olamim. Blessed are you, Adonai, sovereign of praise, source of the impulse to give thanks, crown of wonders, who desires a world filled with song and a universe of life. At this time, I'd like to invite our congregation's president, David Kaufman, who will share with you some brief thoughts.
Good morning. Good morning. Before I begin my formal comments, I'll start with the end in mind by thanking many of you for your time, talents, and treasures shared with us over the past year. Foremost in my thoughts is my wife, Sherry, who's always been there with words of encouragement and support, and for being my partner in life. To Goldie Lansky, for being there whenever called, for helping through the many searches and transitions, and for agreeing to be most gracious with her retirement time, assisting us with all these high holiday preparations. To Rabbis Goodman, Raskin, and Wolf, for assisting us with pastoral, life cycle, and educational services, allowing us to meet the varied needs of all our congregants. To our board of directors, who give so graciously of their time and energy to make sure that we continually seek to improve the ways that we meet the needs of our congregation in the most fiscally responsible way. To brotherhood and sisterhood, for your many, many contributions to the life and vibrancy of this congregation. To our office and maintenance staff, who put the needs of Temple above all else, coming to work every day, looking for ways to improve the way they provide services to you, our members. To Gene, for jumping into his responsibilities as our new executive director, and for making this place his home and not just a job. To Michael Kaur and Ed Mallow, for filling in wherever there's been a gap. To Canterbury, for reminding us about how important music is to our ability to connect spiritually, and to Rabbi Bahar, for constantly reminding us that our prayers in here are to no avail if we do not do the really hard work out there. And finally, to our many volunteers and program sponsors who deliver meals, check on newborns and those of us in need, answer phones, serve as greeters at the front door, stuff envelopes, sponsor activities, write articles, lead Shiva minions and study classes, prepare meals and onegs, and plant gardens, and so much more. I began last year by introducing the theme that we do things better when we do them together. This simple statement has resonated with so many of you, been embraced by our clergy, staff, and volunteers, and has become my calling card, particularly for those of you who attend Friday night services. For me, it is as simple as recognizing that in this often polarizing world where we are afraid to have an open and honest conversation with our friends, coworkers, neighbors, and even family, We lost the art of listening and being there to support one another. It's what institutions like Temple are there for and why we must support them. As I was preparing my comments for this year, I came across Psalm 118, which we traditionally read during the festival holidays. I believe that verse 5 of the psalm speaks directly to us as a congregation, and I want to share it with you today. Psalm 118, verse 5, reads in the English, "From the straits I called God. God answered me with a vast expanse." My perspective on this psalm is that when we are experiencing negative issues in our lives, we tend to focus internally and begin to lose our peripheral vision. We find ourselves in a place of narrowness where we are focused on ourselves. We miss out on the strength gained by expanding our view and allowing ourselves room to breathe. We have experienced a significant amount of transition over the past many years. At each turn, we found ourselves looking inward at how the change would impact our own personal lives, rather than through a broader lens that looked at what would be best for the congregation as a whole. That was the difficult lens that past presidents and boards have had to wrestle with in order to get us to where we are today, with a whole new and invigorated team. With a broader picture in view, we can return to our congregation's roots. We are once again looking out for one another and the larger community through enhanced partnerships with the Federation, JCA, other houses of worship, and One Jacks, focusing on spiritual, educational, social, and social action programming. If you've been paying attention at all to what's been going on at Temple, particularly over the past year, you would be amazed by the power of community that we have been able to rekindle. Around this time last year, we were pulled together and became a community of one in the aftermath of the tragic shooting at Pittsburgh's Tree of Life Synagogue. Through the vision of one and the work of a small and diligent staff, only 2 days following the shooting, we opened our hearts and our doors to share our fears and grief with over 1,200 of our closest friends and neighbors right here in this sanctuary. People of all faiths, Jews, Christians, Muslims, and other beliefs joined together in one voice, and the temple was the beacon that brought us together. You'll soon find that I'm a horrible joke teller, but there's an old joke that a rabbi, a priest, and an imam walked into the bar and sat down together. The bartender walked over and asked, "Is this a joke?" Well, here at Temple, it is no joke. It is who we are. We truly practice Big Tent Judaism, where all are welcome. Just look around you. We have Jews by birth, Jews by choice, African American Jews, Hispanic Jews, straight Jews, LGBTQ Jews, Friends of Jews, and even a few Reformed conservative Jews. I could go on and on with examples from this year where we accomplished tremendous things, where the initial efforts of a few ultimately benefited the whole. From our cantorial campaign that started with the incredible generosity of 3 families and grew to a campaign with the participation of over 170 families that far exceeded our goals, to the replacement of the flooring and beautification of the inside and outside gardens, and ultimately to how we as a congregation wrapped our arms around our fellow congregants in their times of greatest need. During the weekend of December 6th, we will celebrate as a Temple community the return of music in a more formal way. In these very rooms, we will celebrate the installation of Cantor Barry as our full-time cantor and the success of the Cantor campaign. We will also be making a big push to re-energize Mitzvah Day, our long-standing Temple tradition of collectively giving back to the community. I hope that you will keep this conversation about the value of Temple front and center as we move forward through the course of the coming year, and that you will come to understand and appreciate that the true value of Temple is greater than the narrow perspective of what I or you individually derive from it at any one time in our lives. The presence of a vibrant Temple in our midst is what sets the table for the things that really matter. As we move through the inevitable ebb and flow of life, temple is sometimes at the forefront, and sometimes it is in the background. The important part is that it is. In short, if we want temple to be here for those joy-filled moments or times of a personal or community crisis, then we need to make sure that we support it when we seemingly don't need it at all. You may only need temple at certain defined times, but for us to be available for you then, we must be available always. This congregation, its clergy, staff, facilities, and programs are invaluable and must be maintained. Try envisioning a Jacksonville without this congregation. One must only remember back to last year's history lesson presented by Rabbi to remember and understand the true value of this place, not only to us, but to the community at large. The leadership of Temple is committed to creating the kind of welcoming worship, learning, and pastoral community that can reverse the decline in affiliation that we, along with countless other faith congregations, are experiencing. I hope you've seen for yourself the progress we've made in just the past year to bring in top-notch professionals, create meaningful worship experiences and programming, and regain our higher profile in the community. Heck, we even have an eye-catching new sign out front announcing our presence on San Jose Boulevard. As we go forward, we will continue to reinvent ourselves with an eye towards increasing the value proposition while remaining true to our core values and traditions. On behalf of my wife, Sherry, and the rest of our family, I wish you each a healthy and happy New Year. Shana Tova.
We continue back in our prayer books on page 141, page 141 with the Chatzi Kaddish. As we turn to page 142 for the Baruch Hu.
Oh
We continue on the top of page 145 together. Hello, sun in my face. Hello, you who make the morning and spread it over the fields, and into the faces of the tulips and the nodding morning glories, and into the windows of even the miserable and the crotchety. Best preacher that ever was, dear star that just happens to be where you are in the universe, to keep us from ever darkness, to ease us with warm touching, to hold us in the great hands of light. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Watch now how I start the day in happiness and kindness. Baruch atah Adonai, Yotzer Hamaorot. Our praise to you, Adonai, creator of the cosmic light. We continue responsively on page 147. I am the blossom pressed in a book, found again after 200 years.
I am the maker, the lover, and the keeper.
When the young girl who starves sits down to a table, she will sit beside me.
I am food on the prisoner's plate.
I am water rushing to the wellhead, filling the pitcher until it spills.
I am the patient gardener of the dry and weedy garden.
I am the stone step, the latch, and the working hinge.
I am the heart contracted by joy, the longest hair white before the rest.
I am there in the basket of fruit presented to the widow.
I am the musk rose opening unattended, firm on the body's summit.
I am the one who love overcomes you already with you when you think to call my name.
All life springs from a single fountainhead. Listen, Israel, know the oneness of the heart of multiplicity. With love and reverence, bear witness to form our Father.
We continue on pages 150 and 51 with the Shema. Continue with the chanting of the Ahavath on pages 152 and 53.
Adonai Elohecha bechol levavcha ubechol nafshecha ubechol meodecha v'hayu hadarim ha'ele asher anochi mitzavecha hayom al levanecha v'shinantam levanecha v'nivartam bam v'shivtecha b'beitecha u'v'lechtecha b'derech u'shoftecha u'v'kunecha u'shaitam leot hayadecha v'hayu l'totafot b'einecha u'v'tatam ha'mizvot b'eitecha u'v'isharecha למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים ללבביכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אלוהים.
We continue responsively on the bottom of page 163. Page 163. Remember the stories of slavery
and you will never stop working for freedom.
Remember their fear at the edge of the sea.
And self-doubt will never defeat you.
Remember when desperation turned to celebration.
And you will never let go of hope.
Remember the words of the Baal Shem Tov.
Forgetfulness leads to exile. Remembrance is the secret of redemption.
Rise as we continue with the Amidah, beginning on page 166.
Avraham le'ezrat Sarah. Atayibo le'olam Adonai b'chayei hakol ata Rav le'hoshia morid hatal Michael Hayim b'chesed Michayei hakol berachamim rabim Somek nofim v'rofei holim Umatir asurim Umekayem emunato Lishenei afar Mikal mochal ha'negurot Umidol melach Melech menid umechayem Umatzmiach Yeshua Rachamim, Zochir Yitzurav, L'chaim berachamim, V'ne'eman ata, L'hachayot hakol, Baruch atah Adonai, Michayei hakol.
Please be seated. We continue silently, and I encourage you to please pick one of the readings on pages 172 and 73 as we prepare ourselves to read the Unetane Tokef prayer. I hope that one of these readings will help inspire you to understand this prayer at a greater depth this year. Page 174. And so let these words of sanctity ascend to you, for you are our God and sovereign. Let us proclaim the power of this day, a day whose holiness awakens deepest awe and inspires highest praise for your dominion. For your throne is a throne of love, your reign is a reign of truth. In truth, you are judge and plaintiff, counselor and witness. You inscribe and seal, you record and recount. You remember all that we have forgotten, and when you open the book of memories, it speaks for itself. For every human hand leaves its mark, an imprint like no other. And so a great shofar will cry, Tekiah. A still small voice will be heard. Angels in a whirl of fear and trembling will say, Behold, the day of judgment, for they too are judged. In your eyes even they are not blameless. All who come into the world pass before you, like sheep before their shepherd. As a shepherd considers the flock when it passes beneath the staff, you count and consider every life. You set bounds, you decide destiny, you inscribe judgments.
Shine. ani umi yashir mi yushpal umi yaru.
In the middle of your handout is an alternative translation or version of the Unetane Tokef prayer. Together, on Rosh Hashanah it is written, on Yom Kippur it is sealed, that this year people will live and die, some more gently than others, and nothing lives forever. But amidst overwhelming forces of nature and humankind, we still write our own book of life, and our actions are the words in it, and the stages of our lives are the chapters, and nothing goes unrecorded ever. Every deed counts. Everything you do matters, and we never know what act or word will leave an impression or tip the scale. So if not now, then when? For the things we can change, there is tshuva, realignment. For the things we cannot change, there is tefillah, prayer. For the help we can give, there is tzedakah, justice. Together, let us write a beautiful book of life for the Holy One to read. Page 180. But through return to the right path, through prayer and righteous giving, we can transcend the harshness of the decree. You are everything that we praise you for, slow to anger, quick to forgive. You do not wish the death of sinners, but urge them to return from their ways and live. Until the day of death, you wait for them. You accept them at once if they return. Since you created us, you know our impulses. We are but flesh and blood. We who are mortal, our origin is dust, and so is our end. We wear out our lives to get our bread, like broken vessels, like withered grass, like a flower that must fade, a shadow moving on, a cloud passing by, mere dust on the wind, a dream that flies away. But for you, ever-living sovereign, time has no limits. Your presence, unbounded by days and years, is everywhere. A glorious mystery none can decipher. Your name is worthy of you, and you are worthy of your name. And our name you have linked with yours. Please rise as we continue on page 184 with the Kedusha.
Kakatu valean niviz
seated. We continue back in our handout responsively with the reading God's Plan and Introspection. If God's plan followed my plan, I would have no scars on my skin or in my heart. If God's plan followed my plan, I would not have learned to grieve or cherish, to hope or surrender, to be broken and still be whole. God on high, release me from my judgments and designs. Open my heart to you fully, without reservation. Cast out my doubts and shames, so I may receive your divine wisdom and strength. We continue on page 192. Page 192. You and you alone, Adonai, will reign over creation. Upon Mount Zion, home of your presence, and in Jerusalem, a city set apart by you. As the psalmist believed, Adonai will reign eternally. Your God, Zion, for all generations. Hallelujah.
Kadosh ata v'nora shemecha v'ein Eloah mibaladecha
We continue on page 197. Remembered for life. Now we will count to 12, and we will all keep still. For once on the face of the earth, let's not speak in any language. Let's stop for 1 second and not move our arms so much. It would be an exotic moment, without rush, without engines. We would all be together in a sudden strangeness. Fishermen in the cold sea would not harm whales, and the man gathering salt would look at his hurt hands. Those who prepare green wars, wars with gas, wars with fire, victories with no survivors, would put on clean clothes and walk about with their brothers in the shade doing nothing. What I want should not be confused with total inactivity. Life is what it is about. I want no truck with death. If we were not so single-minded about keeping our lives moving, and for once could do nothing, perhaps a huge silence might interrupt this sadness of never understanding ourselves and of threatening ourselves with death. Perhaps the earth can teach us, as when everything seems dead and later proves to be alive. Now I'll count up to 12, and you keep quiet, and I will go. The bottom of 196. Zochreinu Adonai Eloheinu bo l'tova. Eternal our God, remember us.
Amen.
Ufokdeinu vo l'vracha. Be mindful of us and redeem us.
Amen.
V'hoshiinu vo l'chaim. For a life of goodness and blessing.
Amen.
We continue on page 198. We continue on page 208. Page 208 together. God who is ours and God of our fathers and mothers, lead us to holiness through your mitzvot, and may each of us find a portion of Torah that is ours. You bestow such goodness, teach us to be satisfied and to know the joy of your salvation. Help us to serve you truly with purity of heart, for you are a faithful God, whose truth stands forever. Baruch atah Adonai, melech al kol haaretz, mekadesh Yisrael v'yom hazikaron. Our praise to you, Eternal One, whose power pervades all the earth. You bring holiness to the people Israel and to this day of remembrance. Eternal our God, your people Israel yearns for your favor. Receive their prayer with loving acceptance, and may you always desire your people's worship. Divine One, close to all who call upon you, bring your grace and presence near to those who serve you. Pour forth your Spirit on us, and may our eyes see your merciful return to Zion. Baruch atah Adonai, hamachazir shchinato l'Tzion. Blessed are you, whose divine presence is felt again in Zion. We continue on page 213 as we focus on a prayer of thanksgiving. Dusting. Thank you for these tiny particles of ocean salt, pearl necklace viruses, winged protozoans, for the infinite, intricate shapes of submicroscopic living things, for algae spores and fungus spores bonded by vital, mutual genetic cooperation, spreading their inseparable lives from equator to pole. My hand, my arm make sweeping circles, dust climbs the ladder of light. For this infernal, endless shore, for these eternal seeds of rain, thank you for dust. Baruch atah Adonai, hato shimcha ulecha na'eh lehodot. Blessed are you, Adonai, whose goodness deserves thanks and praise. Page 214. Our God, divine presence, whose path our ancestors walked, bless us now with words first bestowed on Israel in the time of Moses and Aaron, the threefold blessing given us through Torah that joins our hopes with theirs. Can ye hear Ratzon? May you know God's blessing of shelter and care. May it be so.
יאר אדוני פניו אליך ויחונקה.
Ken Yehi Ratzon, may you receive the light of God's kindness and grace. May it be so.
יישא אדוני פניו אליך וישם לך שלום.
Ken Yehi Ratzon, may you see God's favor and goodness, and may you partake of God's peace. May it be so. We continue with the singing of Sim Shalom, after which is a moment for silent prayer. Please feel free to use the words on pages 218 and 19 or the meditations of your heart. I'd like to invite our young friends who are amongst us to please follow Beth and Michelle, especially if you are a teenager. If you are in grades 2nd through 5 or 1st through 5, I'd like to invite you to please follow Dave and Evan in the back at this time. We continue with Avinu Malkeinu, on page 223. Page 223, as I invite David Kaufman, our congregational president, to please open the ark, and I invite the congregation to please rise at this time as we join together responsively, first in the Hebrew and the English. Avinu Malkeinu Shema Kolenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, hear our voice.
Avinu Malkeinu Chatanu Lifanecha.
Avinu Malkeinu, we have strayed and sinned before you.
Avinu Malkeinu Chamal Aleinu Va'ala Aleinu V'Tapenu.
Avinu Malkeinu, have compassion on us and our families.
Avinu Malkeinu Kela Dever V'Chera V'Ra'av Me'aleinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, all us sickness, violence, and hunger.
Avinu Malkeinu Kela Kol Tzor Umastin Me'aleinu.
Avinu Malkeinu, hold the reign of those who cause pain and terror.
Avinu Malkeinu Kotvenu B'Sefer Chaim Tovim.
Avinu Malkeinu, enter our names in the book of lives well lived.
Avinu Malkeinu Chadash Aleinu Shana Tova.
Avinu Malkeinu, renew for us the year of goodness.
Avinu Malkeinu Chanenu Va'anenu Ki Ein Banu Ma'asim Aseh Imanu Tzedakah V'Chesed V'Hoshienu.
Avinu Malkeinu, almighty and merciful, answer us with grace, for our deeds are wanting. Save us through acts of justice and love.
Avinu Malkeinu, Shema Kolenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Chaytanu Lefanecha. Avinu Malkeinu, Chemol Aleinu. Violol Aleinu, V'Tapenu. Avinu Malkeinu, Avinu Malkeinu, Kotzenu, B'Sefer Chaim
I'd like to invite Sandy Archer and Linda Rodman up to the pulpit and thank them so much for all of the beautification that they have done. They worked with Eagle Scouts, specifically Jack Blasbog, in making the Bloom family garden in our hallway gorgeous and making sure our flower planters out front in our garden look magnificent. We are grateful for all of their volunteering and effort that they do to continue to make this place something that we want to honor. I'd also like to invite up to our pulpit Wyatt Bowers, our Vice President of Programming, Joanne Cohen, our Vice President of Lifelong Learning, Mike Elkins, our Vice President of Finance, and Dan Weinstock, our Vice President of Faculty, that's fine as well. Facilities, I think, is more appropriate. And Kevin Rout, our Vice President of Ritual. As we take the Torahs out of the Ark, they will be marching them around the congregation.
Ein kamach Elohim Adonai v'Masecha Malachutecha Malchut Kol Olamim u'Memshaltecha b'Chodor v'Ador Adonai varech et amo v'shalom.
Remember